A number of public figures have weighed in on the issue between Israel and the Palestinians. And these public figures aren't necessarily politicians. They're actually celebrities. Rihanna, Dwight Howard, Amari Stoudemire, they've all gotten into a little bit of trouble after they have posted something on social media in support of the Palestinians. So let's start off with Dwight Howard. It all started yesterday when he tweeted out the hashtag Free Palestine.
Oh, how dare he? Jeez, that is so offensive. To free a people? Oh, I sure hope he apologized for that, Anna.
He immediately took that tweet down.
Oh, good.
And then followed it with an apology tweet that says the following: "The previous tweet was a mistake. I have never commented on international politics and never will."
Okay. Please, sponsors, don't take away any of my contracts. I didn't mean to offend anyone. Now, if you don't know, Dwight Howard has a reputation in basketball of always being happy-go-lucky. I don't want to offend anyone for any reason at any time. That's why he must have thought this is the most inoffensive tweet of all time. They probably showed him a picture of some kids who were hurt in Gaza Strip, and he's like, "Oh, free Palestine. That's good. That's not going to offend anybody, right?" And he's like, "How did this offend anyone?" And then he has to go backpedal and apologize. What twisted world do we live in where you have to apologize for saying free anyone, let alone free Palestine, a whole nation?
We live in a really interesting society where if you use that hashtag, you're cast off by some individuals as anti-Semitic. And if you think that that is some sort of hyperbole or overreaction, it's not true. A lot of people do think that he should be condemned for what he tweeted. One person is Morton Klein. He's the president of the Zionist Organization of America. And here's what he had to say about Dwight Howard's tweet, even after he had taken it down and kind of apologized for it. He said that Dwight Howard should be publicly condemned as strong as Donald Sterling was.
Yeah, that's mental. Hey, look, he's got an agenda. And I want to give you one more quote from Morton Klein to give you a sense of where he's going here. "Anyone who used the phrase free Palestine is either ignorant of the situation or hates the Jewish state of Israel. It's a hateful position." Okay, that's insanity. To say that Palestinians should be free is anti-Semitic. I mean, but this is exactly what people do to try to oppress the opposition and make it like verboten. Like, no, don't you ever criticize my position. If you do, you are by definition anti-Semitic, bigoted, etc., whatever it is. So you have to actually prove it. Like, look, it's not that anti-Semitism doesn't exist. Of course it exists, right? But you have to have actual evidence of it, right? If someone says free Palestine and you call them anti-Semitic, what you've done is you've cheapened anti-Semitism.
Yes.
And when it happens in reality, you're going to be the boy who cried wolf, and people aren't going to believe it. You're not helping Jewish people. You're hurting Jewish people by doing that.
Absolutely. That's 100% right. It definitely belittles real anti-Semitism that definitely does exist. When you consider something like this, something that's supportive of the Palestinian people, a sign of anti-Semitism, then you're really doing a disservice to Israel and also Jewish people in general. One thing that
by the way, can I just say, like, we couch it in those terms because we believe that. But we also have to point out, it's also doing a disservice to the Palestinians. Yeah. I mean, to say that anyone who believes that they shouldn't be occupied or that they should be free like everyone else on the planet wants to be, right? And that Americans say that everyone on the planet has a right to be, to say that they're not allowed to even express that opinion, well, isn't that anti-Palestinian? Isn't that bigoted against Palestinians? I can certainly make a billion times better case for that than you can make a case than Dwight Howard is anti-Semitic for saying free Palestine. No, look, and by the way, this is a small organization. Don't think that they represent all Jewish people, because that's what they want you to believe, but they don't, okay? It's only 30,000 people in this organization. They're not one of the larger Jewish American groups. They're not necessarily mainstream Jewish thought, okay? So they're absurd in their own right, okay? And they think that they can intimidate all opposition into bowing their head in favor of the right-wing government of Israel. Well, we're not going to bow our heads. You're ridiculous, and we're going to point it out as such. All
right. Now, another public figure that got into a little bit of trouble was Rihanna. Now, Rihanna hasn't released a public statement after this happened, but she did tweet out hashtag Free Palestine.
Oh, there it is again. Oh,
similar to how Dwight Howard did. She took it down shortly after she tweeted it. However, she has not released a statement about it at all.
So if you're a supporter of the right-wing government of Israel and you think freeing the Palestinians is anti-Semitic, You have to understand that if you're not in this debate, if you're not a Palestinian, you're not an Israeli, you're not familiar with this debate at all, for the people who say Free Palestine is hateful, you sound nuts. You sound, to the rest of the world, you sound like you're crazy.
Now, there's one final person at this moment who is facing criticism for supporting Palestine, and that is Amari Stoudemire from the New York Knicks. He went on Instagram and he basically put up a photo that says, "Pray for Palestine." So there's the photo. And
even more hateful. Prayer? Oh my God, how dare he?
So shortly after he did that, there was a columnist and former model by the name of Becky Griffin that kind of criticized him for it. And as a result, they went through this exchange on Twitter, and it was through direct messaging, so it wasn't on their public accounts. And he wrote the following to her: "Keep my name out of your mouth. You don't know me. I don't know you. So let's keep it that way. Keep my name out of your mouth. Thanks." And she wrote back, "Are you threatening me?" Which is ridiculous because he wasn't threatening you. He just said, "Stop talking about me." And then she said, "I'm entitled to my own opinion. Deal."
I am 100% against Becky Griffin here for reasons that I'll explain, which I'm sure she will think is bullying, right? First of all, you're allowed to your opinion, of course. So is Amari. So when he says, "This is my opinion, like I would like people to pray for Palestine," and you criticize him for it, he's allowed to criticize you back. And it is the online world saying shut your mouth is among the least offensive things I've ever heard online, right? You know what she did? She took this screen capture and sent it to the entire press. Like, "Oh my God, look at Amari. He's bullying me. Oh, I can't believe how hateful he is." Wait a minute, you're the one who picked the fight. He just said pray for Palestine, and then you said that was hateful. What? She said no, because it implies that you shouldn't pray for Israel. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
No, there's not going to be a solution. That's the real issue. Look, here are very specific stories, right? But it should make you focus on the broader issue. And the broader issue is we're not willing to have an honest conversation about what's happening. This is such a divisive issue, and people are so irrational about it. And since they're so irrational about it, and since there's this ridiculous paranoia about being called anti-Semitic if you do an honest conversation or have an honest conversation about it, there's never going to be a solution. There can't be a solution if you pretend that one side is always right and one side is always wrong. If you decide to be ignorant and oblivious to the situation.
But the Becky Griffins of the world, that's what they want to do. They want to make sure they shut the conversation down. So if anyone dares support for Palestinians in any way, shape, or form, freeing them, praying for them, etc., they shout them down. Then if anybody responds to them shouting down anti-Semitic, hateful, and bullying me, and I'm sending it to all the press, look at me, look at me, look at me. Look, you're right, Becky, it worked. I never knew about you before. Congratulations, we just said your name. I hope you're happy about that. Now I want to show you two other absurd things about this. Amari is actually my favorite one out of all of this ridiculous non-controversies, because it says pray for Palestine, but if you noticed, it's a picture of an Arab boy and an Israeli boy, and they're arm in arm.
Hateful.
How could that be hateful against Jews? It's a message of peace. And now the final irony. Amari Stoudemire is Jewish.
Anti-Semitic.
Okay. Now, by the way, now that he's dared to say pray for Palestine, they're questioning whether he's Jewish. Several articles,
alleged
they said his mom is allegedly Jewish. Now, Amari, if you don't know, is African American. He plays for the Knicks, etc. And so if you see him, you might say, "Oh, I wouldn't have guessed he was Jewish." That's perfectly fair, right? But I went back to the source articles. I'm like, alleged? Oh, is there a controversy around this? No, there's no controversy.
It's amazing.
He's always said that his mom is Jewish. Now there's all of a sudden it's alleged Jewish mother of Amari Stoudemire. Because, I mean, what kind of a Jew would pray for Palestinians? Is that what you're saying? Isn't that the worst thing you could possibly say? Isn't that 10 times worse than what Amari said or Dwight Howard said or Rihanna said? You guys are crazy, man. Look, Anna's right. Both sides are so biased in this issue that they can't see straight. Of course, Hamas shouldn't fire rockets. Of course, Israel shouldn't overreact and kill 80% civilians as they do their retaliation. Of course, they shouldn't occupy Palestine in the first place, but even saying that is controversial now. Of course you shouldn't occupy a people. America shouldn't have occupied Iraq. I mean, to think that to say end an occupation and free a people is controversial it shows you how nuts this conversation has got.